preferred company. It's about home healthcare.
Preferred's a friend you can depend on. Home healthcare with feeling. We're a part of the family, the way it ought to be. I preferred home healthcare. You're in preferred company.
Here is your radio host, Joel Markel, president and founder of Preferred Home Healthcare and Nursing Services, and co-host Mary Ann Levy.
Thank you for coming out the other night. You were part of my surprise party.
Yes.
And it was great. It was wonderful. I was really surprised.
It looked like you enjoyed.
I did enjoy. And the people that meant most to me were there. It was you and Stephanie, Vinny, Charlie, Bob, Irene, Lynn, Jen, and Denise. And we were all there at Charlie Brown's in Silverton. And we had a great time.
We had a great time, too.
The food was good.
It was small.
It was small, quaint,
the food
intimate.
was good. Company was better.
Yep, it was. So I really had a nice time. I prefer something like that where it's the people that mean something to me instead of a whole room of people where maybe I see them once in a while or whatever. Those people were there because they wanted to be there. That's the way I looked at it. They wanted to be there. And also, I meant, because I made a tiny little itty-bitty speech when I was there, I had a realization when I walked outside, and I said it to the girls. Everybody in that room that night came to me through the magic of radio. Serious.
Interesting.
Serious. You with the show, okay? Lynn and Jen, Denise, Irene, all started out as listeners. Now they're my best friends. Charlie the same way, Vinny the same way, and Bob, obviously married to, through radio. Everybody in that room tonight came to me through the magic of radio.
I want to welcome Dr. Erica Sonnenberg, author of The Good Gut. And let me say good morning to you, Dr. Sonnenberg.
Hi, good morning.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well, thank you. In preparing for the show, one of the things that I noticed is the book being entitled The Good Gut. Where does the word gut come from?
Yeah, gut is just a common phrase that we use to talk about the digestive system. But actually, when we talk about the bacteria that live in our digestive system, what we're mostly talking about is the large intestine or colon. So the very end of our digestive tract is where most of these bacteria live.
Now, you wrote a book. I assume it's your husband, Dr. Justin?
Yes.
Okay. The two of you wrote a book called The Good Gut, and what it is helping us take control of our weight, moods, and long-term health. Could you give us one suggestion that we could all use today before we start getting into bacteria and all the other goodies that we are going to be speaking to you about? What can Mary Ann and I do today to take control of our weight, mood, and long-term health?
Well, I think the one thing that you can do is take care of this community of bacteria, these 100 trillion bacterial cells that live inside your gut. And if you take good care of them, they'll in turn take good care of your body and help you control your weight, your mood, and your long-term health.
Okay, but easier said than done. How do we begin?
Yeah, so, I mean, what we're finding in research in our lab and other labs is that this community of bacteria is really reliant on dietary fiber. So what they're eating is the complex carbohydrates that are found in plant matter like fruits, vegetables, legumes, and whole grains. And that's really the fuel that feeds these microbes, these 100 trillion bacterial cells in our gut. And our research is showing that these bacteria are wired into so much more than digestion. They're setting the dial on our immune system, deciding how big of an immune response we're going to have, say, to the flu, but also to something like peanuts. They're also wired into our metabolism, so they're helping us decide, our bodies decide whether or not we're going to burn calories or store them. And then and a new emerging area of research is how they're connected to our central nervous system and our brain. And there's evidence that these bacteria way down in our gut are actually having an influence over our brain.
Now, following the show, I have an appointment with a nutritionist. And this is my second appointment with her. And what she is helping me with, I am not, what would you say, Marianne?
What?
In no way am I morbidly obese. Am I obese?
No. Well, see, what is it, doctor? What is the definition of obese? How many pounds you should be would make you an obese person?
Yeah, right. There's a whole like a BMI calculation.
Right.
I can't remember what the number. Yeah.
So
Well,
you're
I guess-
definitely not obese.
Okay, I know Dr. Sonnenberg. By the way, once again, I'm speaking with Dr. Erica Sonnenberg, author of The Good Gut. I love the title. The nutritionist is going to be pointing me towards protein. The entire conversation is going to be protein, especially, and this is going to be lesson 2 today. Eat your protein first, and if you are going to do anything like a carbohydrate, you do that after taking your protein. Does this have anything to do whatsoever with your research?
Yeah. So carbohydrates is somewhat, I think, a confusing term for a lot of people. There are basically 2 main types of carbohydrates. There's the simple carbohydrates, so that's things that are found in processed foods and sugar, and those don't feed your gut microbes at all. Those are absorbed by your body very early in your digestive tract and can result in a lot of problems. The second type of carbohydrate are these complex carbohydrates that we call dietary fiber. So these are the things that are found in plant material. And those complex carbohydrates are really important for feeding your gut bacteria. They don't cause the spikes in blood sugar that we see with the simple carbohydrates. So I think that, this villainizing of carbohydrates in general is a little bit misguided because, there are these good carbohydrates. So back to your idea of eating a lot of protein, I think that eating protein is obviously an important thing, but I think we can choose proteins wisely. So, for example, legumes, things like garbanzo beans and lentils, these are very rich sources of protein that also have a lot of dietary fiber that helps feed our gut microbes. Because the one thing people don't realize is, this community of bacteria in our gut needs fuel. It needs food. And if we don't give it dietary fiber to eat, then what it does is actually starts eating the mucus that's on the layer of your intestine. They basically eat you. And so we want to make sure that we're feeding them food that we're eating so that then they don't, in turn, start eating the mucus lining of our intestine.
Is there, like, for instance, I will often reach for, if I'm out to eat, I will reach for tofu. And for every single step that you take, there's always a voice that says, well, there's the good kind of tofu and there's the bad kind of tofu. And my feeling is that when it comes to diet, we can all go nuts because there's just too little education in a very complicated food world.
Yeah, I feel like for the microbiome, it doesn't need to be very complicated. In our book, we talk about, we have a 7-day meal plan and recipes, and what I think people would see is that there's not really any faddism behind it. We don't say there's specific foods that you can't eat at all or specific foods that you have to eat a lot of. All that we're saying is that, when you look at your plate before you eat, the majority of that plate should be covered in plants. And this is in line with what people are saying out of the Harvard School of Public Health and the Mayo Clinic and the recommendations for the FDA is that Americans are eating an amount of dietary fiber that's half of what the FDA recommends and is about 5 to 10 times less of the amount of dietary fiber that's consumed by people that live a lifestyle more like our ancestors did. So these are modern day individuals that are hunter-gatherers, and they're eating on the order of 150 grams of dietary fiber a day. So they're providing a lot of food for their gut microbes. Americans are barely eating 15 grams a day, and it's resulting in a situation where our gut microbes are really under attack by this lack of dietary fiber, and they're struggling for survival.
I have a question real quick. They say, fiber, fiber, fiber. Now we hear fiber pills. You're not getting enough fiber. Take these fiber pills. Is it the same thing as if to say, I can't cook for myself every day? And it's, you know what? It is quite expensive to have a healthy meal. You can go to McDonald's and get a burger, fries, and a soda for $3, but you go for a salad, it's going to cost you almost $7.
Right.
So, it's fiber pills, fiber medication. Is that a right? Is it the same as eating a green leaf?
That's a great question.
The research, I think, is really unclear in that regard. We have to remember that the field of microbiota research is only about 10 to 20 years old. So a lot of questions like you're asking, is a plant-based diet as good? Is that, can I get enough fiber just out of supplements? Right. We don't really know the answer. The thing that we do know, however, is that individuals, these large meta-studies that were done studying people that eat a Mediterranean diet or a traditional Japanese diet. People that eat a diet that's heavy in plants have less incidences of many Western diseases like obesity, type 2 diabetes, even autoimmune diseases, allergies, and asthma that are so prevalent in our American society that our diet is so deficient in fiber.
I think that there's something interesting that I've observed in that when I look at what is out there today versus when I was, let's say, in college, where granola was very big and yogurt wasn't as popular, it feels as if there have been many healthy things added to our choices. When I go to Europe or, let's say, the Middle East, anywhere else that I travel, I feel like much of the stuff that has started here, such as the McDonald's, has really gone that way. Do you think that it's? Do you think that the different parts of the world are influencing each other?
Yeah, I think that as our Western culture spreads to other part of the world, and there's been studies done about the microbiota in individuals living in Europe that live a lifestyle very similar to ours, like you said, eating fast food, and their microbiota also looks like it's in a deteriorated state compared to when we look at individuals living in rural Africa or in parts of the rainforest in South America. Their gut microbes house about 1,600 different species of bacteria. In the Western world, we're only housing about 1,200 species. So we've lost a full third of the bacterial diversity that these other cultures have. And the question is this basically extinction event that's happening in our gut, is this at the root of this huge increase that we're seeing in many Western diseases? And that's what the research is starting to show, that these gut microbes, because they're playing such a vital role in our health, that this decline in our diversity of bacteria is likely contributing to the rise of many of these diseases.
Let me once again tell the audience that they're listening to Preferred Company, and our guest today is Dr. Erica Sonnenberg, who collaborated on a book with her husband, Dr. Justin Sonnenberg, entitled The Good Gut, Taking Control of Your Weight, Your Mood, and Your Long-Term Health. Dr. Sonnenberg, if you were to, I think I said this at the start of the interview, if you can help me with one thing today, can you give me any one thing to do today that I didn't do yesterday that may help me along?
Sure. In fact, I'll give you three things. So the first thing
Perfect.
is to eat a lot of as much dietary fiber as you can. The second thing is to try to eat or expose yourself to environmental bacteria. So this is probiotic bacteria that's found in yogurt or fermented foods. It can be from petting a dog or going out and gardening. Just find ways to counteract our overly sterile environment by having contact with microbes in our environment. And the third thing is to really limit antibiotic use for when it's absolutely necessary. I think that there's been this idea that antibiotics don't really have a downside, and clearly antibiotics are very important, but we are realizing now that they really decimate the gut microbiota, so they only should be used when they're absolutely required and not, there is a big downside associated with them, so make sure that if you need antibiotics that you really do need them.
You're listening to Preferred Company with Joel Markel and Marianne Levy on News Talk Radio, WOBM AM 1160 and 1310, and we'll be back.
Back to Preferred Company with your hosts, Joel Markel and Marianne Levy.
I preferred home health care. You're in preferred company.
You must be opposed to the gel that's all over the place, the squirts that are offered to us. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I think this is just indicative of how we view microbes as just these, horrible things that we need to get rid of, and they only cause disease. And that's not really accurate. There are many, many bacteria. Most of the bacteria that we are associated with are actually good for us. And so this constant sterilizing of everything in our environment, I think, has a big downside. And I think we're seeing that downside in the rise of all the allergic diseases that are so common now that weren't so common even just 50 years ago. So, so people need to remember that there are a lot of good microbes, and that, if you are petting your dog and then want to pick up an apple to eat it, it's not imperative that you wash your hands with antibacterial soap in between there.
Interesting, because during the winter months especially, I feel like if I am at a conference and I shake 50 different hands, there's always a feeling of wanting to use that stuff. Yeah, I feel that people carry so much stuff on their hands, and you and my wife share the same philosophy, which is do not squirt more than you should of that stuff, and I don't know how much that means, if any.
Yeah, I think you just need to do a cost-benefit analysis, and probably around flu season, if you're shaking 50 people's hands, it's probably not a bad idea to wash your hands in between.
Right.
But if you're just, out in your yard that you're not spraying with pesticides and herbicides, so, there's a whole chemical exposure thing, too, that we want to keep our hands clean from. But if you're just out in your yard playing around or, like petting your dog, those are situations where it's probably not necessary for you to wash your hands after that. So you just have to think in your mind, am I coming in contact with chemicals? Am I coming in contact with a lot of people that might be sick? Then washing hands is probably important. And then it shouldn't just be a knee-jerk reaction. It's something that you can think about and think, okay, maybe I have a little bit of dirt on my hands, and, the microbes associated with that dirt, maybe that isn't such a bad thing for me. Maybe consuming a little bit of that will actually be good for my gut.
I have to ask this question in a certain way, which is, once again, I do want to remind the audience that with us today is Dr. Eric Sonnenberg, author of The Good Gut, Taking Control of Your Weight, Your Mood, and Your Long-Term Health. Dr. Sonnenberg, Americans are living You've called into a home health care show. Americans are living into their hundreds, 102, 103. As the owner of a home health care agency, I'm no longer surprised at all when I see a patient on service who is 102, 104, 105 years old. And we all know that Americans are living longer, yet we're being admonished for what a bad job we're doing.
Yeah, I think that, you just, the thing, and part of why we wrote this book, the concern that we have is if you look at this young generation, so there are children now that are getting type 2 diabetes, which was a condition that we originally, was always viewed as a condition of older people. And I think what we're seeing now is that this decline in our diet that's relatively recent is really impacting our gut microbes. And I think what we're starting to see now is younger and younger people with these diseases like obesity and type 2 diabetes and all these autoimmune diseases.
Yes.
And so our concern is, I think people that are 100 years old now didn't have the access to antibiotics that we have. They didn't have antibacterial soaps, and they were eating a diet that was more in line with what we're saying in the book, which is plant-based, not a lot of processed foods. And so our concern is this new generation of people, and the average child in the United States is taking one round of antibiotics per year. And so I think that all these things are resulting in a situation where maybe this next generation of people won't get the opportunity to live to be 100 years old unless we do something to really improve our health.
I have a question, okay?
Sure.
I was told to see if you have yeast in your system or a bacteria in your system to try this. When you go to bed at night, take a glass of water, a clear glass, and put it on your nightstand. As soon as you wake up in the morning, okay, as soon as you wake up, before you do anything else, you sit up and, excuse me for doing this, but you gag and go and spit into the glass. Now, if your sputum sits on the top, there's no bacteria. If it starts to get tentacles coming down like a jellyfish, you have some bacteria or yeast. And if it drops all the way down, it means that your body is filled with yeast. Have you ever heard that before?
No, but the one thing that I would say is that we have bacteria everywhere.
Right.
So starting in our mouth all the way down through our gut, there is bacteria the whole way through there. And I think that, we just need to remember that for the most part, these microbes are doing good things for us. And so we just have to, not view them in such a negative way.
But having excess yeast in your system, will that deter you from losing weight?
Yeah, I think there can be imbalances in these microbial communities. And, there could be situations where certain microbes are more abundant than others, and the system is out of whack for that. And so I think, we just need to kind of be in tune with our body. And then if we eat a diet that promotes healthy bacteria and take probiotics and in the form of fermented foods, that we can help rebalance our system to one that is more healthy. Yeast is a microbe, but it's not affected by antibiotics. And so by taking a lot of antibiotics, you set up a situation in your body where the yeast have an advantage, and that could, imbalance. You have to remember inside of us is an ecosystem much like a rainforest, and if you disturb part of that ecosystem, you can make the whole ecosystem in general unstable and sick. And so, you just have to be wary when you do things that hurts one part, say the bacterial side, by taking antibiotics, then doing things like taking probiotics, eating fermented foods, and a diet that's high in dietary fiber can help bring those microbes back after an insult like antibiotics.
Well, our time is up. I'm going to have to say thank you to Dr. Erica Sonnenberg, author of The Good Gut. I do want to thank you once again. Perhaps next time you visit, you can bring Dr. Justin along with you.
Sure. Yeah, that sounds great. Thanks for having me.
Sunday, May 17th, I'm going to be doing something extremely out of the norm for me.
No.
Okay, I'm going to be in a fundraiser that's raising a whole lot of money. You don't know about this?
No.
Okay. It's for the Toms River Police Foundation, all right? It's called Pros Against the Heroes, or Pros versus Heroes. You haven't heard about this? Joel, okay, I will be playing along with a number of NFL football players, football on the beach against the Toms River Township Police Department.
Good for
I am
you.
on the team. Okay. It's a full event that's going to be raising a whole lot of money. It's a whole lot of money. And this is really kind of neat. It's really, really kind of neat. It's going to be in Seaside Heights on the beach. I'm going to be playing with, like I said, NFL football players against the Toms River Township Police. All money raised going to the foundation for the police, which support a number of events going on. So now what I'm in the process of is, in order to play with the police, you had to raise $1,000. To play with the pros, you had to raise $2,000. Well, the two $1,000 spots that were left over for the police were taken. So now I'm on the road to raise $2,000 to play for the pros. My question to you is, would you like front row seats on the beach? And a t-shirt. And a t-shirt.
All right. What is this costing me?
$20.
That's it?
$20. I'll get you on the beach for $20. Yeah. If you help support me on this.
Tell me.
What?
Tell me about the cause again.
It's for the Police Benevolent Foundation, okay? They're a 301K, whatever that thing is, that nonprofit thing, all right? The foundation is supported volunteer auxiliary police. They've been responsible for funding to send over a dozen police explorer scouts to national conference competition every 2 years at a cost up to $15,000. They support so many other things around here. A number of scholarships to all 4 high schools here in Ocean County. And the applicants must be the children of active or retired Toms River Police Department officers pursuing a college education or something into law enforcement. And we know how important law enforcement is today, especially with everything going on. So I'm inviting you to come down and sit on the beach if you would like to on that day.
Thank you.
Front row seats.
I will try and be there.
Okay, very good. Okay. But I'm going to be playing football. Now I got to find out how to play football. It's totally, it's an event that they do all over. It's just a wonderful thing. I'm really looking forward to it. It's actually a 3-day event that's going to be going on. And like I said, every penny raised will be going towards the local charities, which is a very nice thing. We just got to hope for good weather because everything is outside. Everything is outdoors. I get a uniform and everything.
Really?
Yes. It's going to be very cool.
To keep?
I'm assuming so. What would they do with it afterwards?
I have no idea.
They said, are they going to be able to get a uniform to fit you? There's also a couple girls from, have you ever heard the Lingerie League?
No.
Brad, you ever heard of the Lingerie League? He's heard of it. Women that play football. And there's a couple of those women that are going to be playing on the pro team.
This is Preferred Company with Joel and Marianne, and goodbye. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks for watching Preferred Company. For more information or to inquire about the services offered by Preferred Home Healthcare and Nursing, call 1-800-603-CARE.
1-800-603-CARE.
That's 1-800-603-2273 or visit preferredcares.com. Friend Preferred Home Healthcare and Nursing Services on Facebook and follow them on Twitter.